Good afternoon and welcome to this very last session of the first day of the CAiSE conference. This session is the last thing that keeps you apart from the dinner, so let's make it agile. And it consists of a panel that you can see here, the title, Advanced Information Systems Engineering, which in our name. My name is Xavier Frank, and I'll be acting as moderator of this panel. So first of all, a short motivation for this panel. Information system engineering is a continuously evolving field. We have new or reformulated social challenges like we had in the keynote this morning, and we have had already several presentations in workshops and today in the main conference about ethics, sustainability, and this kind of new societal challenges that we need to deal with. Also, we have new domains that continuously emerge from Internet of Things and so on. And new techniques based in artificial intelligence, recommender system, and so on that need to be brought into the solutions that we develop. And this has brought in the last few years almost ontological, let's say, question. What is in the name of information system engineering? It is not a life-threatening question, we can live without that, but as a community, we thought it would be nice to reflect and in the long term, even to try to reach an agreement as far as possible about the meaning of the word. Apart from this, let's say, philosophical, if you want, discussion, but still necessary, there is a practical consequence that has to be with our community. The corollary of this question could be, what's in a CAiSE paper? And in this case, if I take the hat of program co-chair of this conference, we have witnessed quite a number of submissions that were directly rejected because being out of scope, or even they entered into the review process, and we noticed that the reviewers could be hesitating about whether that particular paper was in the scope or it was not in the scope of the conference. So it is not just a problem of newcomers to the community, but members that are part of the CAiSE community for a long time may be hesitating about what are the boundaries of our discipline. So this is the main motivation for our panel. Yeah. And we have organized the panel around 3 questions. First question, what are the topics that are in information system engineering? Second question, how to generalize contributions to information software system engineering? And third, what are the most important open issues in information system engineering? And for doing that, we have the pleasure to count in the table with 4 long-time members of the CAiSE community. Johan Eder, Oscar Pastor, Barbara Pernici, and Nina Soffer. I think that I don't need to introduce them. And they will take the word and will present their views to these questions in the following way. After I finalize in the next slide this short presentation, we will devote 3 rounds of quarter hour each, 16 minutes to be precise, each round dealing with 1 question, so that each of the panelists will provide a 2-minute short position using 1 slide, and then we will open the floor to the rest of you that you can give your opinions, ask questions, and give your comments to these positions. And then, as far as we are in time, we'll have the wrap-up of the session. And without any further delay, because we have a lot of questions to do, let's start with the first question. Here you have the full announcement that we gave to the panelists. You can read, and this is the order in which the panelists will take the word. So in this case, it will be Johan first, Barbara, Oscar, and Nina. So, please, now you can start.
Okay, thanks for the panel and the invitation. 2 minutes is an elevator pitch in a 1-story building. I try to be quick. For me, information systems are systems that satisfy some information needs. And this is our core. So the question of the panel organizers was more, can we have something more concrete? But I think defining a discipline, we should not focus on the borders, but we should focus on the center. So what is in the core of CAiSE, rather than saying, well, do we have a litmus test whether one paper is within the scope or or outside of the scope? So I think the main challenge of a paper for being within the scope of CAiSE is that it addresses some of the core problems of building, developing, enacting, and reflecting systems that satisfy information needs, that can contribute to the building blocks, that can contribute to the construction methods, etc. We have overlaps with other areas, but this is unavoidable, and I consider it as a virtue rather than a vice, because either you have the world separated in Mondrian style, or if you don't overlap, you have gaps between the areas. And we have areas which need attention from several disciplines, and so we should reach out to other disciplines, subdisciplines, related disciplines, rather than excluding them from our conference.
So, that was a question which was formulated to us some days ago. And first of all, my background, I have been educated as an engineer, electrical engineer. I am coming from an engineering school. What is an engineer? I don't know if I can define very well an engineer. Anyway, I think that in this community, there has been a lot of this debate about the topic being inside or not. But many times during the program committee meeting, there is the issue. I don't think it's really an issue of a topic. The topic, as I was saying, we are interconnected with the research in many domain areas and so on. But I think that what is characterizing this community is a way of approaching research and topics. And I think, at least my interpretation of it, is that we wanted to see models, we wanted to see a methodology, so we want to see an approach which is a systematic approach, which I think is also a characteristic of the engineering approach. So we typically wanted to try to construct something systematically and so on. And this can be applied, of course, in very many domains, and the issue is not that much whether we are within a given research area or not, but the way we are doing research on a given topic or domain. On the other hand, there are sometimes there are issues about something which is really out of scope. When something is maybe a good paper, contributing to research and so on, but contributing to research which is not related to the construction systems, not related to information as such, and in general, without a systematic approach, then it becomes out of scope. And this, I remember there were already discussions since my beginning here about being related to databases. This is a database paper, it is not a case paper and so on. But it is not that you are dealing with data, it's the way you are dealing with data. So I think this is my answer to this question. The next one is Oscar.
Thank you. There is an animation there. I have to press here, is that the one? Okay. So the animation is not working well because you shouldn't see that yet, but anyway, it's nice. And well, I will try to be brief and very clear, transmitting or sharing with you some reflections that we are having and we are discussing for years. And well, the thing is that what is out of scope for CAiSE is something that has never been clear. What has been clear to me is that it was not clear at all, because in all the program board meetings where I have participated, it was discussions with brilliant people that I saw that were not agreeing in very, very concrete cases. So I'm going to try to say first, information systems engineering is really a very attractive topic. What is information system engineering? My first answer would be I don't know exactly, but I know what is not. And it's not software engineering. So what is clear to me is when a paper is talking about software, is not a paper for CAiSE, so it's not an information system engineering. So this is, I mean, at least some very clear principle that in some cases still I haven't checked if this edition, there are papers that are related to software, and I am aware that not everybody agrees with this point, but I mean software engineering is about software construction. Information software engineering should be about information management, what is not at all software. On the other side, what is confusing is that there are many other communities where I also participate that are doing something that is information system engineering related as requirements engineering, business process management, ER, conceptual modeling, conferences models. So in many cases, many papers that even ourselves submit to these conferences could be perfectly submitted to CAiSE. So this is why I was just, this is the point of this picture that is very well known, that is the connection between data, information, and knowledge that we study from the very beginning in the faculty. Either it is a pyramid or not, what is clear is that if we use the word engineering behind data, information, and knowledge, well, we have something. Because data engineering is just about managing data. And we could say that just managing data is not enough to have a CAiSE paper. This is probably related to database issues that are just manipulating data without providing any concrete or valuable information. Of course, information and information systems engineering should be something else. You are providing some value that is going beyond data. But the connection with knowledge is still more challenging, because knowledge engineering is still something that many times is a logical consequence of applying information. Anyway, Xavi is coming. Just two more things here. That is, no, this is the extra time. Okay. So I think that what is very important we need to have something like a framework of reference to characterize what is an information system engineering contribution. And we should agree in which kind of dimension should be considered. We should agree in what is a body of knowledge for information systems. Steve Alter was the other day presenting a concrete proposal. There can be many more, but we should start discussing which ones we have to try to fix that. Okay, and I think, yes, this is important. We need an actor. And probably this IFIP 8.1 workshop group that is just plenty of members of the CAiSE community could be a leading actor. And I would invite many people that I see now that are not yet a member of this working group to be a member, because this could be something, a really interesting group to try to provide such a kind of body of knowledge for information systems, set of dimensions, and or whatever we call it.
Thank you. Okay. Nina, your turn.
Thank you. Okay, so I tried to answer this question. I was speaking to Iris about it. And, well, I think the key issue here is that information systems engineering is about systems, okay? We have systems. We engineer systems, and these are socio-technical systems. So we have the organizational system with an information system, which is part of it. And all these cross-cutting domains have like parts of a system. So, for example, information system has a database and it has a user interface. And of course, there are business processes which are part of the organizational system and are implemented and managed by the information system. And so this is all the system. So when do we consider, when can we consider a topic to be an information systems engineering topic? It can focus on one of these cross-cutting domains like databases or HCI or business processes, but it needs to be aware of the system and consider the system as a whole and have implications and consequences and conceptualizations that are system relevant, okay? And yes, I agree with everything that you said, that we need an engineering way of thinking and a set of tools. But I think what makes a paper or a topic as an information systems engineering topic is that it is aware of the system and not focused on specific aspects of the small area. Like, for example, if we take something which I know not too much about, that's HCI. Consider, for example, augmented reality, which has been talked about recently. So topic like what kind of augmented reality representation preferred by users for augmented reality glasses does not consider the system, okay? So this is an HCI topic. But if we think of what unique requirements are posed when incorporating augmented reality and this kind of stuff, then we can have an information systems engineering a topic. And well, something which is a bit more close to me, process mining, yeah? Sometimes people debate whether pure process mining paper is an information systems engineering. I think it is definitely information systems engineering, because what do we do in process mining? We use log data, which is generated by the system, in order to come up with insights about the processes, which are part of the organizational system, and identify research, improvement opportunities for the processes, for the systems. This is pure information systems engineering. But if it is something very technical, which a low-level focused paper dealing with a technique to improve performance of a specific, very specific process mining task, then it is perhaps not in the information systems engineering scope. So I hope I make myself clear.
Thank you, Nina, and thank you all the panelists. So this is the end of the position of the panelists for this particular question. Now it's time to open the floor for questions. We have here a question by Rick.
Thank you much. I appreciate this panel discussion very much, because I think it's very important to once in a while lean back and think about what we are doing and what we are supposed to do. And I also think, and that's what I got from your contribution, that it is important to be open for change, to embrace new topics, but then at the same time you have to ask yourself, well, what are new topics that fit and what topics won't fit? So what I think is important, that we ask, what is the identity of this field or the discipline, and what makes an identity of an academic field? I think there is something that is sort of related to the past. We need to share a common memory of the history that eventually, characterizes the development of the field, which is, of course, a subject of narratives and so on. But then in addition, we need a set of methods, and that brings me to my question, a set of methods and theories that distinguish our field from other fields, in the sense that we can tell why using these methods and why applying these theories enable us to solve problems that other fields, competing fields, cannot solve. So my question is, what are these methods that are characteristic? What are these theories that are characteristic and that enable us to make a difference?
My very first answer to this question is conceptual modeling. I think that conceptual modeling is what we are doing for years, but I am fed up with saying that people from software engineering do not believe that conceptual modeling is really needed when you are a good programmer. So I think that for being a real engineering, software production should be conceptual modeling based, but this is just entering directly methods and solutions that are information systems oriented.
So, Oscar, how many papers, because you don't, how many papers are on conceptual modeling?
Yeah, this is a good question, probably. But I think that beyond that, it's hard. I think that probably methods, any method that is dealing with any solution that has a methodological background, and that is covering all the software production process, from requirements and from goals and organizational issues till software, could be also subject of being information system oriented. So we could have business process models, we could have requirements, modeling methods, model transformation tools. I think that this is the information system fields. But I absolutely agree in the fact that, even the answer to this question is still controversial. Not everybody says the same, and this is a problem because, if we are something, we should at least be aware of what does something means. So we should have a common identity. And I think that we have the intuition, but it's only the intuition. For instance, if we have, I ask you to define what is an information system, where there are people with many years of experience here, I'm pretty sure that if we get 50 definitions, they are not going to be the same at all. I mean, and some of them will be probably even different. So we are talking about something that even ourselves do not agree. If we talk in ontological terms, if we are looking for a precise definition.
Can I just add something to what Oscar said? I disagree. There are a few papers that deal with conceptual models in this conference. I mean, they are not necessarily about conceptual modeling, but they have conceptualizations underneath and as a basic way of thinking. And I think most of the papers here do that.
Okay, well, we have had a beautiful tutorial on conceptual modeling by Henry.
Okay, just a little remark about conceptual modeling. You do this in other disciplines as well. When you do runtime models or adaptation models or software engineering models, it's also conceptual modeling, but that's maybe not a key. I would, to be a little bit provocative, go back to the 70s. There was a simplifying two communities. One was dealing with embedded system, where real-time and response and things like that was important, and information system, where a huge amount of data was important. In my view, this differentiation has disappeared totally. With the Internet of Things, there is almost no information systems anymore who does not have a huge embedded part with sensors and actors where you get information from. And when you look in embedded systems, you have a lot of information going on, and all of those are embedded in some kind of business process, or at least provide some values to the users. Otherwise, nobody is building a system anymore. So this typical differentiation, which is on the slide, that you have a database and some kind of function and a user interface, I think holds nowadays for all kind of systems, at least exclude operating systems, maybe, but at least this differentiation between embedded system and information system, in my view, has absolutely disappeared, at least in practice. Maybe not in research, but in practice for sure. So this is one thing I like to have comment on. And another one, on the slides, I always do with my students this experience. You replace information systems by software engineering, for example. All the sentences are true. So this is not the difference. The core must be something else, or maybe the differentiation has even disappeared. Question.
Okay, someone wants to answer?
Well, my point was that the development of the field, if you focus too much on the borders, gives you a wrong impression. And in particular, we are in a research conference, in a research field, and there my experience is that if you use any statistical classification, I remember being on a panel selecting proposals for research projects, and most interesting proposals were other technical disciplines, because this was forming, this is the new thing comes outside of the typical classifications. And therefore, the core is, it is the engineering, it is the modeling, it is the intention of serving information needs, of developing systems that satisfy information needs. For me, this is the very core of CAiSE. And there could be contributions from building blocks like, I don't know, business processes, databases, but you need to make clear how you contribute to the construction of information systems. This is for me not a litmus test, but a contribution to a discussion which constantly forms and drives the field.
Yes, I agree, and I would complement that using this invariant image of the game of data, information, and knowledge, because I am using it for years, of course, and it's still valid. You were saying, Klaus, that well, with Internet of Things, for instance, things are dramatically different. Well, if we look, if we think in terms of data, information, and knowledge, well, we have the same problem, because Internet of Things devices, they are providing data. This data need to be analyzed, to be transformed or converted into valuable information that in some way is going to generate knowledge. So there is space there to distinguish between, again, the pure software production solution problem and the issue of getting valuable information that could be converted into knowledge. So I believe that, I think that will be probably Arne and Yanis and Colette, when they called the conference Advanced Information System Engineering, was a very clever name, because information systems engineering, well, it's okay, but advanced means that you can also cover the upper part, that is the knowledge, how to go from the information to the knowledge. And this is why I think that CAiSE has the seed to become the conference of reference for information system engineering, as X is for example, for software engineering, or requirements engineering is for requirements, and so on. So I think that the future of CAiSE is really, really strong. It is somewhat, there is a clear intuition of what we want to do, we should do. The problem is that we should transform or convert this intuition into real, precise, and clear data in order, I mean, again, playing with data, information, and knowledge applied to ourselves.
Let me, just a little remark. Let's make a concrete example. Autonomous driving is an information system? Of course it is, but large part is also embedded. So I think this differentiation has somehow diluted our traffic control system. It's
in the moment in which the car is talking to a system to gather information, and you have to manage that, and you have to take actions and so on, it becomes an information systems as well. Of course, it has also technological components that are completely out of the scope of this conference, but why not?
Yeah, but as a consequence, that means everything is an information system. It's a statement one could make, but maybe everything is an embedded information systems, or the combination
Maybe
of both.
we go to the next one. I just wanted to do a remark. What we were saying. As we were saying, we focus on the core, and then we three said that the core was something different. Data information, I would say, engineering part, and you were systems. And we did that independently. But we agree on the general approach. I'm not sure we agree on the specifics of what the core is. Okay.
Thank you. We had a word, but let's wait for the wrap up, the final round. And so let's move to the next question. Second question is somehow related, and maybe some of the positions of the panelists in response to the comments have started to go in this direction. Given that information system research is often applied to a specific application domain, which kind of and level of generalizations are required to make a contribution, a worthwhile information system engineering contribution? as opposed to a domain-specific contribution. We slightly change the order of panelists now, and Barbara will start.
So, my answer is that not necessarily we need some generalization. So, what is important is the way we tackle the problem, the way we are describing our solutions in terms of models, ways of managing the information, interacting in the system, and so on. So I don't think this needs necessarily to be generalized in a paper. Okay. On the other hand, I think some things, like I was saying before, are completely out of scope. It's clearly that some technological issues which are advancing the specific field are not within our normal domain, nor just descriptions of domains. So this is also something that doesn't contribute. As a general impression for me is that I should listen to a paper and learn something from that I could apply maybe in other domains, but not necessarily with the paper should contain this generalization.
Okay, so I must confess that this was not my favorite question because it was not so Yes, okay, I was saying that it was not my favorite question because it was not so essential, so fundamental than the others. It's not, well, it's not a hard matter to me. Maybe information system engineering research can or cannot be domain dependent. If it is domain dependent, of course, this relevance for the domain must be justified, must be visible, and must be evident because we are providing a solution to do things better. So this should be natural. Otherwise, the value of the contribution is useless. But if it's not domain dependent, well, in that case, a precise generalization characterization must be provided, and we have theories to do it. Design science is talking about generalization by analogy, or was supported by an architectural explanation or a statistical inference. So it's just a matter of what kind of contribution we are talking about. So it is more important to be able to determine, I will insist in that, what type of information system engineering is being presented. And I think that this is the key point. And this is, I am especially interested in things as I was discussing with Steve the other day, that, for instance, to have a catalog of information system roles that should be shared by everybody. Imagine that there are, let's say, 6 roles that when I am presenting or I am defending an information system contribution, I should be able to determine which one of these roles I am facing and in which way I am providing something that is better, is new, is original, is relevant. And of course, related to the role, it is natural to talk about actions that are just probably conforming what is the extra value that the contribution is provided. So there are works that are being done in this direction, and I think that we need to consolidate these results because this is what will make us become a respected and appreciated community.
Thank you, Oscar. Now, Nina.
Okay, so, well, yes, we do apply information systems engineering methods and concepts to application domains, and while doing so, we gain insights and we make contributions to information systems engineering. And so, and since these are usually design science projects, I took these 7 guidelines of design science and try to think along each one of these what would make it an information systems engineering contribution. So, first of all, we have design as an artifact, and there are 4 known artifacts, okay? There are constructs and models and methods and instantiations. Now, clearly, when we do some project with a different application domain, say CAiSE's car, for example, then we can be inspired and run into new challenges and then develop new methods and new models and new concepts. If it is just an instantiation of what we already know, then it may contribute to the car, but it is not an information systems engineering contribution. Otherwise, it is an information systems engineering contribution, and we get it from inspiration of other domains. And then there's a guideline of problem relevance. So we need to be able to identify an information systems engineering problem, okay? Something which is relevant for information systems engineering in CAiSE's car, okay? Okay, the evaluation. What evaluation criteria are we using? I'll finish in a minute. Yeah. So evaluation criteria, and this is something I can apply. I can instantiate what I know in a new domain. Okay. For example, I can do a conceptual model, create a conceptual model of a medical domain, and yield some new medical insights. So is this an information systems engineering a contribution? It is definitely a medical contribution, but since I show for the first time that using the methods of information systems engineering, I can provide this kind of insights, yes, I think it is also a contribution for information systems engineering. And I'll stop here.
Thank you, Nina. And do you need this?
Okay, so we both looked at design science, and we have there this requirement that in design science we should communicate the results both to the application domain and to the IT domain. I think this is very crucial. So it is an ISE paper if it contributes to the knowledge base of ISE and not only solves an application problem. Otherwise, it is an application, but not a research. So the question is, how should that be achieved? And I think there the important thing is it has to be communicated in a way that people who are not specialists in the application domain can read and understand the paper and can gain a benefit from studying how it was performed, what are the artifacts which were created, which were the lessons learned. So you might write about biological applications, but in a way that you don't need a PhD in microbiology in order to understand the paper. This is a level of abstraction which is necessary. So, and therefore there is this cross-fertilization. The experience in one application domain should also give insights which could be taken over into other application domains. And it should give feedback also from the experience, and not only the artifacts, but also the experience in applying our methods and adjusting our methods for specific purposes.
Thank you, Johan. Now time for opinions, questions, and comments. Yes, please.
I think that is to write them down is typically work for CAiSE people like you. Shouldn't you be the writers of these catalogs? And if so, could we expect them next year when the next CAiSE conference is announced with this list?
This was an inspiration that came from my discussion with Steve just yesterday, because his work, he has done some interesting work on proposing this set of roles that information system use should consider. My first reaction is that we have, with some colleagues, we have thought about that many times, and it's something that could be done, but we don't do it because we don't focus. So I think that the characterization of what information systems or what an information system research contribution is should be based on a precise set of dimensions that can be evaluated, can be detected, and can be applied in practice to compare, to be able to compare different results, because we can contextualize the work in information system terms, and we can then, with this contextualization process perfectly done, we can achieve conclusions that are well-grounded, because we know what we are talking about. So this is the point, and I think that, well, just you are advancing what I'm going to present in the last answer, that is how to proceed in that direction. I'm pretty sure that we could do it. And it's true that, well, for sure, from this real conference, we cannot have something close, but we could have an interesting step forward that is providing a useful material in this direction. And we have an example that to me, when I did my PhD, I'm not going to tell you how many years ago, was very useful. That was a result of this IFIP work group 8.1, that was the Frisco environment, a framework for information system concepts. Well, this Frisco to me was inspiring in the sense that, of course, I'm not going to say that everything was correct there, but we had answers to the question. And we have clear definitions. And when you have clear definition, it's like having an identity card. I'm talking about an event because an event to me is that. It's an abstraction of a change state. And so if we know what is an event, and we know what is an event, we can talk about events. But if we have different perceptions, intuitions about what is an event, and we are talking about events, we are losing time because we are not going to agree.
Okay, but it seems that you are able to write such a version, or at least the first version, and maybe it's an idea to have a discussion session next year, where you bring in the paper.
You want to make a commitment that I will.
Yeah, a call to action
so
it's a call to action.
I will do my best.
Okay.
More questions? Yes, Klaus.
Let me start with other engineering disciplines. When you look at mechanical engineering, when you build a bridge or a skyscraper, the engineering is almost completely different. So other engineering disciplines over 200 years have developed special disciplines, application domains, or system type specific, whatever you want to call it. And they specialized on an application domain, and thereby were able to make big progress over some 100 years or so. We know in computer science or information systems or whatever systems engineering you will call it, things go much faster than in the previous engineering discipline. And my question is if it's not a time now or very soon only accept research which focus on an application domain and thereby can use the context knowledge of this application domain to provide much better solutions. We all know that requirements can only be defined when you take the context into account. And my provocative question is the time for research which is application domain independent, is it over? I think yes, soon. Maybe not today, but very soon. A banking system has nothing to do with a supermarket system, or not very much, and nothing to do with a logistic transportation system. Totally different challenges, totally different problems. Some generic solutions, yes, but maybe we know all of them. So last sentence, in the 90s, early 2000s, we said, oh, not yet another object-oriented modeling language. We know all these concepts in one way or the other. No? So maybe, and then there was this idea of domain-specific modeling languages. Maybe we should really focus on domain-specific and not on domain-independent. You agree?
Well, there is this question of application domain and core domain in many disciplines. It's also in pure and applied mathematics, which I would relate it much more than civil engineering, because when the question is you build bridges and the question is just where do you build the bridge, is a different story from a fundamental basic technology like IT. I think that we are running the risk already that we are separated in different application areas, and where then the knowledge in the application domain is dominant. We already have building informatics, we have bioinformatics, we have legal informatics, and I can tell you from some of these areas that they are lacking behind in knowledge of recent advantages in information systems engineering, and they would benefit a lot. So I would like to invite these application-specific subdomains to also come to CAiSE and to exchange their abilities, their results. And these results, in many cases, can be abstracted from the concrete application domain. You are talking about domain-specific languages, which are great. But in order to do that well, you need a theory of application-specific languages. You need a theory of languages. And if you don't have it, well, you do handicraft. And for the theory of a language, this is what we are, and the models behind it, this is what we are responsible for, and this is our core identity, I think.
Just a small comment, Johan. I disagree. In engineering disciplines, they build systems and they learn how to build them better. And the theory comes ages later. They built normal engines for cars since how many years? I don't know. The theory, how this really works, is there for less than 10 years, so they can prove in theory that an engine part holds or fails after something. Before, they just did engineering, which means learning from experience. And as long as there is no experience which contradicts the previous experience, the experience holds.
No, in a lot of engineering disciplines, there had been a huge turnaround. In the building, in the civil engineering, it was in the 19th century when they were able to model the buildings before they built them, and they could do calculations about how thick the walls have to be in order not to collapse. And if you look into mechanical engineering, currently they all use models which are established and which guide the construction of new artifacts. And only the models allow to learn in the design whether the desired artifact in the end will have certain properties. And this modeling was really what made engineering a scientific discipline rather than handicraft.
Okay, it's good to disagree. Yeah, it's the source of new disagreements. Okay, let's move to the last question. What are the most urgent open issues in ISC research? This one's maybe more concrete, let's say. And we have again the panelists in a slightly different order. So, Oscar, you start.
Well, I think that now I'm really going to be brief because I have two challenges to share with you and one actor to try to accomplish them. So in some way I was also answering the previous question. the first challenge, something that we need and we should construct together as a community. A foundational ontology of information system engineering fundamental concepts. So we need to share, to have a full agreement in defining what is a system, what is an information system, what is a model, what is a conceptual model, what is a process, what is an event, what is an activity. It cannot be the case that, as I said, I predicted before, if we do the exercise of writing a definition in a piece of paper, we get, the same number of different people, different definitions. Because this is what we do, and this is what we are talking about, this is what we are focusing on our research. So this is really an important point. And well, I think that we should do it together with the second one, that is probably a bit easier. That is not very hard. I mean, it's just a matter of creating a team and to do it. But the second one is quite clear, is to define a framework of reference to conceptually characterize an information system engineering research contribution. So this would be very useful for all the program committee members that when they are evaluating a paper, they could have a clear set of dimensions to identify, to contextualize the paper and the value, the contribution that the paper is doing. So this should be done, and we need the actor, and we need, of course, a leading actor to do that. Again, could be the IFIP working group, or why not, this Frisco Plus Plus, or whatever we call it, could be a CAiSE foundation. I was trying to create that a few years ago with Colette, but that didn't work. Both, they are not incompatible. Something else, but, well, just doing panels year after year, we are not going to move forward.
Thank you, Oscar. Nina, it's your turn.
So funny. We look at completely different directions. Okay, you look inside, I look out, but we still agree. Okay, so I look out, and the world looks at AI, and we need foundations, right, Oscar? But we need to make ourselves very, very relevant, and relevant to where the world is going. And that's, as they say it, aye. So yeah, that's where we need to go. Now here's a slogan I heard from AI people, that rules are for losers. Who needs human-devised rules? Just give me enough data and I know everything. But yeah, this is something Barbara Weber said to me yesterday. Why do we need to pretend we are more stupid than we are? There is a lot of knowledge, and we have tools, right, Oscar and Barbara? we know how to create models. We know how to represent knowledge, and we know how to devise methods. And these are all needed as part of new AI applications, but we need to show and to develop and to integrate what we know how to do into this, where the world is going, okay? So this, I think, to make IS engineering relevant and central, this is where we should go. There's also the other direction of like AI-assisted information systems engineering, which also has some very, very interesting directions. I will not go into it. It's all here. I wrote so much. I don't know why. That's what I had to say.
Thank you. Please now, Johan.
Yeah, grand challenges. I took it a bit more concrete. One thing I see is that we were talking about data quality a lot in recent years, and we have to focus more on information quality. So like in multimedia, they went from quality of service to quality of experience, which is a different thing. Then I see a huge area, and this is resilience. Resilience in terms of we are under attack from various levels, at different levels. We build very complex systems, and the question of how to manage it, how to know about dependencies. We had a keynote of trustworthy system. This is also a very important element for me of resilience. And resilience versus efficiency, in our society, we frequently sacrifice resilience for efficiency, and that bites currently back. Another grand challenge, a meta theme for me, is data sovereignty. So how is the role of a human and the role of the rights of a human in our information society? So let's say in the history, we finally, in the last years, discovered that it's probably not the case that we are watched all the time from above. And now as we start believing that, we are by other entities. And the question of how to give this sovereignty about own data, about own life back to people is, I think, a major topic. And we know all how it goes in China. We also know how it goes in the US. And I think that also has maybe a European dimension, that this is an important thing. And the last one is a personal favorite, everything related to time. So for me, time is one of these fundamental concepts which is not yet properly understood, and where we don't have a lot of applicable techniques, representations, formalisms. So I will work on the last one.
So it's difficult after all what was said. I think that I agree that we can focus on some specific challenges which are emerging in different fields. So from time to AI and so on, and we should be there. If I offer a thesis to students now and I say it's on information systems, they will never do it. If I say we analyze data because we want to gather information about the climate change impact, it's the same thesis, but they will do it, okay? So, but we should also adapt what we do to this. So it's not just that we change the name, it's the fact that we should go in depth in tackling the big problems that we have. And one that I think is important, we were starting from models. Now everything seems to be bottom up. We take the data and we do everything with the data. Like Tina is saying, there are rules for the losers, okay? And our approach is based on trying to define rules in general. There must be a way in the middle, and maybe we should investigate that and so on. Of course, it's impossible to make a list. We have all our favorites, and so this is, I don't think we should make a list, but we should go in that direction. And this is taking me to the other 2 points I've put here. I don't know if they are answering the question, but the types of paper we are writing here. So they shouldn't be specific on a little problem and studying it. Maybe very well written and so on, but in the end with very little impact and so on. So we should try to raise the level of attention to something which is bigger in general, and try, the community should have better attention to this type of problems, and this will also advance more probably the field. And I stop here.
Thank you, Barbara. So, any new favorite topic, or we have? Use this one.
So people in the academic information system field wrote a paper in JAIS recently. This is Nick Hassan and Lars Mathiasen and some others. And it was about using some stuff from a French writer named Foucault, and it was about discursive formation, which sounds really bizarre. But what it was about was what is the structure of a discourse? And they broke it into several different levels. The first level was, what is the question that this discourse is trying to answer? And then what are some of the paradigms that are used to answer that question? And then it breaks down into models and theories and a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think it might be really useful to try to, in some way, summarize what is the question that IS engineering actually is trying to address, as opposed to saying, here are a bunch of solutions that we're trying to discuss, or here are a bunch of topics that we're trying to discuss, all of which are very interesting and are relevant, but it might be fruitful to come the other direction. Is there some crisp description of the question that IS engineering is trying to address?
Do you think there is such a question? One? I asked whether you think there is such one question.
According to what I understood in the article that was written about stuff that Foucault wrote, I think that when something is a reasonably organized discourse, there should be some kind of central question that it addresses. In my own work, I actually found that very useful to have an image of what I was really trying to do, and then it ended up going a lot of different directions, but was all in support of that image. And I just wonder whether it would be possible to articulate one or two, or maybe three, specific questions that really are the questions of IS engineering.
But a question was coming to my mind, Nina, that was, again, reusing the data information knowledge pyramid. That is that what we want to do, the question that the information system engineering want to answer is how to manage information correctly, how to store and exploit information in a valuable way. So this is a very generic question, but it's a clear question in the sense that the last word that we were discussing yesterday was about fake news. Imagine that we talk about fake data that create fake information. So characterizing this information management that is coming from data is an information system problem, but we can apply this pattern to any domain. When we have data that should be converted or should generate some information that is going to be knowledge, where I see this pattern everywhere. This is why I said, I told Klaus before that in the Internet of Things, but whatever we do, if there are data, flat data, this data in some way become information, and we have to manage that. And we have to manage that in a way that should be able to generate knowledge. So I think that this pattern is always there, and this is a question that is probably the heart or the core of information system engineering. How to identify the information that is relevant and how to manage it in a valuable way and in an understandable way, in an efficient way, or whatever adjective we want to use.
I'd like to make a last question.
Oh my goodness, sorry for that. I would like to come back to the requirement Johan made. We would like to have quality information. I think in the data quality area, we are pretty sure what is data quality. However, information can be complete wrong. Let's say I have a very lovely website, the Wikipedia English version of describing Dresden. None of the sentences in this description of Dresden is correct. None. But it is useful information. For a tourist, it's sufficient. That means in this case, you need to define what is, in your understanding, information. I know 4 categories of information so far, or of information notions, and I like the pragmatic one. That means the anthropomorphic one. It is useful for my stomach, and nothing else. That means in this case, you should really clarify what it means to be, let's say, of a high quality for information. Can you clarify it?
The proof of the pudding is in the eating. No, it is so dependent, and therefore, you know, there is this joke where somebody is in a balloon 20 meters above the surface and doesn't know he came out of the fog, and asks somebody down there, can you tell me where I am? And he says, well, you're in a balloon 20 meters above the ground. So the information is correct, it came prompt, and is utterly useless. So the data quality is high, but the information quality not. And I think we need to develop notions of talking about information quality, and this will be context dependent. This will be dependent, and I go back to the information needs. Which information needs do I have? And I need data in order to satisfy my information needs, but not any data. And the question of the quality is how well it serves my information needs.
Thank you. Okay, in the interest of the time, it's time to wrap up. And in fact, we are exceeding the allocated slot, so if I had to wrap up myself, I would say that, of course, we're not expecting to have any kind of philosophical stone today, but it is good to start to have emerged to the surface these different views. Maybe from that, the working group 8.1 has a lot of work, and, and we can wait a couple of position papers or exploratory papers next year. But as someone said, I think that it is important that from here we try to make some actionable action in the next future. That I think that at least for the health of the conference, that's good. I don't know if any of the presenters or from the audience wants to make a 1-minute closing sentence.
Yes, I would like just to encourage young people that are coming to this conference for the first time. There are not too many young people. I was just trying to encourage young people that are coming to CAiSE for the first time to realize that information system engineering that is going beyond data and is closely related to knowledge engineering is a huge research work, fascinating and challenging, and I think that we need to continue trying to explore it and to consolidate it. I think that consolidation is probably the main goal at this time. We should consolidate information system engineering to make it become a reference in the IT work. And I think that conceptual modeling, just in a very private concern, conceptual modeling is the key point. I think that conceptual modeling is not recognized as it should, and this is probably something that the information system engineering could help to reverse and to transform definitely. Yeah.
Thank you, Oscar. So now it's time to close. Thanks to all of you for attending this panel, and meet you in a few minutes in the conference dinner. Thank you. Bye-bye.